Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia, or Boku no Hero Academia, Chapter 137. I'm sorry this one's late, guys. It's just I actually had a recording of the video already set up, but something happened with the audio or something, so I'm recording this one again. But yeah, let's get into it. First off, I want to talk about Erase. First off, I'm sure as many noticed, this is another setup chapter, and I know that people are gonna get pissed at that, saying when's the actual action happening? Because we're showing there has been a lot of setup lately, but from the last chapter, I assume there is going to be definitely some action, but yeah, that's the first thing I can see people having a little bit of a problem with. But I think in a way, we could say that all this setup that's going on is just kind of a bit of a small showcase to how much of a meticulous character of what a meticulous person Night Eye really is. Like he plans every single detail, and I think Horikoshi's trying to, in a way, he's making sure in order to show us all that. So another setup, but again, it's a good setup if you look at it the right way. Now I also want to talk about Eraserhead here. Now in this chapter, in the beginning, Eraser said simply that if this he said simply that right now that they're up against the 8 precepts of death. Okay, fine enough. Apparently he said that's fine, but he said if the League of Villains is involved, then apparently they're he's planning to pull. I don't know if it's everyone, or I think it's just his students out of the whole. He's planning to pull his students out of the whole rescue of Eddie, which I can kind of understand in a way, considering that they are still technically students, and Midio and his friends are on the verge of becoming pro heroes, like he said. But I feel this is just kind of showcasing once again something that Stain had constantly been talking about, that if you really that the true heroes are the ones who rescue people in any situation. It doesn't matter what, but and I feel that Eraserhead is failing to understand this. Like he seems to be a little too wrapped up. Like all the heroes, like all the other heroes that Stain has hunted down, he seems a little too wrapped up in the in the rules, in the rule book of being a hero, that he's failed to really grasp what being a hero is. And honestly, I'm hoping that by the time at the end of the series, and by the time Izuku becomes the world's greatest hero, I'm hoping there's going to be some kind of a reform to all these rules and laws that separates a hero. Because with all these the rules, if you take out the rules and laws, then really there's no difference that's separating a hero and a villain. Honestly, it's just all based on the actions after that. But yeah, I'm hoping these rules and I guess you could say the rules and laws are slowly being changed throughout the series through Izuku's actions. But yeah, I'm really hoping something changes with these rules and laws and whatnot. And another thing is, throughout this entire chapter, Midio has a very stern and angry face on that's showcasing a very stern and almost angry face throughout this entire chapter, showcasing that he's kind of dealing with his own personal demons, probably still, about not being able to save Eddie, which is fine and good, but I fear it's probably gonna lead him down an interesting road, because I feel that the one of the major themes that was presented in this chapter is in order to succeed, it's always a good idea in order to rely on your friends. And I feel that Midio is going to get too wrapped up in his own personal belief of fixing his mistake, that he's just gonna keep plowing on ahead. No, that doesn't matter who he has to he has to sacrifice in order to achieve his goal. That's kind of what I'm fearing for as far as Mirio is concerned right now. But but and I'm hoping through that. I'm hoping through something like that happening, and maybe Izuku even managing to in order to talk him down at some point. That I'm hoping that when that happens, I'm like hoping that Night Eye stops putting Mirio on so much of a pedestal and starts looking at both Mirio and Izuku as more equals than favoring one over the other, because throughout the entirety time that we've he does of course seem to have some sort of a small respect for Izuku, as shown with that little conversation between him and Gran Torino in that last chapter. He did seem to show a bit of promising respect for Izuku. Like he expects great things from Izuku, but I'm he, and he still didn't seem to really fully he doesn't seem to fully accept Izuku yet. So I'm hoping at least, but by the end of this, he's going to at least put both Mirio and Izuku on level ground with each other and consider them both as possible as the possible as the possible as possible as All Might's successors, as both of them as All Might's successors, honestly. But yeah. Also, Izuku himself has been. It seems Izuku himself is kind of dealing with his own demons as in regards to the whole situation with All Might. Like you can see he wants to ask Night Eye the whole thing, but the timing just never seems right, and I think he's almost at this point. I think he's almost afraid almost in order to ask Night Eye, because he's worried about Night Eye's response and what it's gonna be in a way, but but like I said, I think through Izuku's actions that are gonna be in this whole thing, I feel that Night Eye is gonna have a bit more respect for Izuku, and maybe then that'll open up the opportunity for Izuku to ask Night Eye more about the whole All Might situation. One thing I really fucking liked in this episode was the moment where in the cafeteria where Todoroki and Ida's advice to Izuku about Ida. First off, is Ida's advice about, if you find yourself in a bind, then say something, because that's what friends are for. And that one already is something I like, because it's not the speech itself that Ida said, but it's how it was presented and the meaning behind it. Because in most shonen I've seen, it's mostly the main character who is delivering that speech, but he's delivering that speech all the time. But in this case, it was almost flipped around, almost like, and I know people keep bringing this up and they hate it, but it was almost like that moment where Itachi was reminding in Naruto, where Itachi was reminding Naruto during the fourth grade Shinobi War that he can't end this war. They can't end the war alone. He needs his friends to help him, and it's a similar situation here too. Like Ida, I believe, yeah. I believe it was during the Stain arc that he did, that Izuku did in fact say those exact words to Ida, and it's good to know that Ida that those words are coming back, but this time in Ida telling them to Izuku. Like it's a good flip around in the sense where it isn't the main character who's telling who's telling his friends to, in order to rely on him. It's the other way around now. So Izuku is in fact motivating all these people. Izuku is showing he has the qualities of a true hero just by motivating all these people and making sure that his words are all sink in pretty much. Which, yeah, I really like. Also to I like Todoroki's little advice about how even heroes must cry sometimes. And the lesson I think we can take away from that is, if you think about it, during All Might's entire 10 year as the symbol of peace, he never once cried. He was always had that big ass smile on his face, and I do get it. It was mainly because he needed to keep the people's he needed to keep the people's he needed to keep those people's spirits up. But I feel that in order to become a true hero, you also need to find you also need there are times where you need to show compassion, even you show compassion, and you need to show that you are a human being, even when you're whole, even in the times where it may not, even times where even times where you need to face a reality check sometimes, and sometimes heroes are ones who are able to face it and own up to their mistakes, and even cry, even mourn. And I think that's one thing that All Might he never truly did. He always kept his pain locked inside. He never let it out or shared it with anyone. And I feel, yeah, that's something that Izuku should also take to heart. Um, One thing I will say, like, is that as much as like I said, as much as I like this chapter, it did, there were moments that were a little slow, but what that again, I understand that it is to show that how meticulous Nada is. And one scene that really got me, and I don't know if it was in the funny way, but it was definitely creepy, is when we see is that flashback when we see it was Nada who was basically using his powers on one of the eight precepts when he was buying that doll, and he's basically came up with that cover story of sharing how he liked the same stuff he did. And I'm sorry, the whole scene with them just trying back and forth, like, I know it's all cover up stories, but the whole scene with them like talking about an anime girl doll is like, that's pretty creepy. But yeah. Also, one last thing, Nada's inner monologue in the end, near the end of the chapter. The thing about that one for me is, even though he was mostly addressing Medio, I feel in a way he was also, again, much like last chapter. I feel he was doing a little subtlety of actually addressing Izuku as well, because I think I think I think Night Eye is at a point in his development where he's starting to realize that, okay, both Izuku and Mirio have the same potential to be All Might's successor, and I think at this point he's not gonna let his powers that just decide the fate. He's just gonna, well, let things play out as they go, and he'll accept whatever happens from this point on. So whether it's Mirio or whether it's Izuku that ends up becoming the next true symbol of peace, he'll accept those. He'll accept those outcomes. But though as of right now, he does seem to have more of his chips on Medio. But I do believe he is starting to learn that Izuku is also a promising contender. And like I said before, after this whole operation's done, I have a very distinct feeling he is going to accept Izuku a lot more, and probably acknowledge him. But yeah, guys, that's my review of Boku no Hero Academia, My Hero Academia, chapter 137. A great exposition chapter, and next chapter, shit is finally hitting the fan. The all the heroes invade Overlord's fortress, and yeah, something tells me there's gonna be nightmare fuel. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Death Knight of Une, signing off. Later, guys.